Hi, Bethany Clement, Elysian Properties.
I'm Cody Touchette with the Touchette team at Caliber Home Loans.
Today is the first step in the 5-part series about buying a home. Cody and I will both talk about that process, and what I'd like to do is start with the real estate side. More often than not, if you're buying a home, the first step would be to talk with me, your realtor. We're going to schedule a buyer consult. What this really is just a sit down. We're going to talk about your wants, your needs, what you're looking for, what area you'd like to be in, or school district. Oftentimes that's a big one. And so we just talk about you, what you're looking for. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I do business. We're going to map out a game plan specific to you because each person is different, their timeline is different, and I really want to adopt your timeline. I can help you buy tomorrow, or I can help you buy in a year or 10 years. It's really your timeline. But having that initial conversation so I know how to really work for you is going to be really important. I think that having someone listen to what you're wanting is really important, and I do that. We talk about, your 5 must-haves. This property has to have this, and it can't have that. And I'm thinking about price point, but honestly, that would lead into the first step that you would have with Cody. And so after that buyer consult, I'm going to set you up with Cody. We have a brief introduction there so you guys can start that process. So Cody, what's the first step in that process?
Yeah, great question. For us, it really boils down to the various stages of pre-approval. And so the first stage is pre-qualification. That can be done very quickly, back of a napkin, just really, really quick, a few numbers, and then we have a general idea what somebody can do. The problem is that doesn't carry a lot of weight in the marketplace, right? So you don't want to get out and start looking at homes with just a napkin for your pre-approval letter, right? So that's pre-qualification. So the next stage would be pre-approval. So pre-approval means we've backed that information up with pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns, W-2s, any financial documentation that would help us understand your past and your future of what your earning potential is. Also, in that stage, we'll also pull a credit report for you as well, and it's never too early to do that. A lot of times people will get a little shy about wanting to have their credit pulled early on in the process. And the main point there is to make sure that there's nothing that we don't know, right? So we need to find out what's on that credit report, even if you think you got really great credit, and maybe even have a monitoring service like Credit Karma or something like that. It's not always the same. A mortgage-rated credit bureau report is different than if you go to shop for a car loan or a credit card, or if you have one of those monitoring services. So really important to get a mortgage-rated credit report right away. Then fill up that file with pay stubs and bank statements and W-2s and all the financial documentation that we need to be able to validate that. Sometimes we'll have clients come in and they'll say, well, I make X number of dollars a year. And if they're a self-employed plumber and that X number of dollars is the number one item on their tax return, but then they claim all their expenses and they claim their cell phone bill and they claim this and they claim that, now we've got a bottom line number. And that bottom line number can be different than the top line number as well. So that's really important for us to get all that information in so that we can evaluate it from a mortgage perspective rather than from a consumer's perspective. That's where most people will stop. Our company, Caliber Home Loans, actually has a one step beyond that, which is called a TBD underwrite. So it's actually to be determined property. And then what we do is we package all that stuff up that we put together with a pre-approval and send it off to underwriting. Now we've actually had an underwriter stamp it and say, this is a go. And that really makes the seller feel very warm and fuzzy when you make your offer. It also allows us to shave off about a week of closing as well. Normally a closing time frame is 30-ish days. We can guarantee a 21-day close if we've got that pre-underwriting done. So that step is really huge in getting you one notch above the next buyer, right? It can't necessarily make up a $40,000 price difference, but if you have a very similar price on your offer and our approval is pre-underwritten and the next guy's is not, you're going to have a feather in your cap. You're going to have that much more in front of the next guy.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be more attracted to the seller.
Absolutely.
And so what is really important about this too is, it's just saving them time down the road, because often, I have people come to me and say, oh, I just want to start looking at some homes first.
Yeah.
But we really stress the importance of you're going to save time talking with me and then Cody to get that pre-approval. So what else is important about
On that timepiece, the other side of that too is heartache, unfortunately. Sometimes people will come in and they'll think they know where their price point is. And I've had it several times on both up and down. And imagine if you're out there looking for a house and you're self-restricting to, say, $300,000 for a price point. But you really could spend $350 or $325, and you're not really seeing anything in that $300 price point, or maybe nothing that really matches your goals. So now you're disappointed, and maybe you decide to not look anymore. When for another $25,000 to $50,000 that you can afford, you could get the house that you want, right? And vice versa. Let's say you've been shopping and you really fall in love with a $500,000 house, and then we meet up and 400 is more your price point, right? And that's maybe more where you feel comfortable, and maybe where your actual maximum pre-approval stops. So if you've fallen in love with a $500,000 house, now every $400,000 house is not really going to compare. So we try to save time and heartache with that initial upfront pre-approval to really know what your buying power is. And in that consultation, we'll talk about all kinds of different possibilities. And getting that piece done allows us to narrow in on just a few products, even though we have hundreds of different products. What's right for customer A is not right for customer B. So getting that piece out of the way allows us to focus in and have a deep dive on a couple of products rather than a shotgun on every product available.
Well, and Cody, our industry is kind of stressful. I mean, for people who are just coming into it or have even bought before, but it's been a little while, this is a stressful industry. And so having Cody and I, sit down with you individually or together, whatever you would prefer, and kind of walk you through your separate game plans, what you want in the house and what you can afford for the house. It's not just going to help the timeline, help you save time, and help with that heartache on either side. It's going to just relieve that stress because we really work for you. We're your advocates. We're here to protect your investment because we both believe very strongly in real estate as an investment. So,
absolutely.
Anything else that people should know about that first step?
Those are the big key pieces. Don't be afraid to get your credit pulled. Don't be afraid to start too early. There's no such thing as too early. Sometimes, like Bethany said, we take an application on Friday and they're in contract by Monday, and sometimes it's a year or two, and that's okay, right? It's better to know upfront and know what you're getting into well in advance of actually getting out there and start shopping.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first step, like we mentioned. So next week we're going to talk about the next step. So make sure that you're watching us live next week at 2:15, and we really look forward to answering some of your questions. If you have specific questions, our contact information is there. Reach out to us directly or just comment below, and we'll see you guys next week.
Sounds good.